everyone, today we will make a nice swatch so that we know exactly which size hooks we are going to use for our cowl. I've talked in a previous video about the yarns that are similar to what I'll be using. I've decided to use cookie yarn from Hobbii because I really like the colorways, and it was actually kind of inspired by this beautiful yarn from Phildar called Jewel Spun, but I know this is a little bit harder to get, and it's also really beautiful. I won't be using this again because it's a little bit hard to get, and I want to use something that is easy to find. So I decided to use Cookie from Hobbii, but another great option that has gorgeous, gorgeous colors. I think it feels to me a little bit thicker than Cookie, and this is, I'm talking about Lion Brand's Ferris wheel. I know this is widely available in the States, and I know Lion Brand has sales like all the time, and you know, you can get like coupons and all those things in the shops like Michael's and Joann's. So this is another great option. I have here the colorway is Wild Violets, and this is a sample of it. So, so pretty. Yeah, what I like about, as you can see, these kinds of yarns is that you get rich colors without the effort of, like, you know, thinking about it. So you can just pick a color you like and use that, and I just really, really love this. This is so pretty. I'll show you how to create the stitch of the sweater. This is how it looks, and we're going to do the ribbing, and that is it. And then on the next video we will start making our sweater. So what you want to keep in mind is I recommend using kind of a small hook for the ribbing. It just keeps it, as you can see, like nice and fitted and tight. And the way that you know, I would suggest looking at the label and then going, so this recommends a 5mm hook, then going at least 1mm below. You can probably go a bit lower. I think I used a 375 for this, so you just have to try it and see how it feels, and if you like it or if you want it like tighter. The nice thing also about, besides the fact that you get like a nice tight ribbing, which I personally like, but again you can actually adjust it more, is that afterwards when we finish the ribbing and we go on to the body of the sweater or like the sleeve, we're going to change to a larger hook, and then this will immediately give us like a little bit more width so that we don't have to do as many increases just because of changing the stitch and the hook size. So for the ribbing, start small, and you might have to adjust it, and then for the stitch itself you want to go with at least what your yarn recommends. So let's see. With Hobbii, of course it also depends on how you crochet, if you're tighter crochet or looser crochet. With Hobbii, they recommend a 4.5 to 5mm hook on the Cookie yarn. Sorry, Cookie. And I started with a 5. So these first rows were the 5. Then it got a bit larger. I went to a number 6, and then finally I decided on a 5.5. And the way that I know that is, first of all, you really should mark it somehow so you don't forget. But I just tied 5 knots and an extra one, so that's 5.5 for me. And here, I'll show you, here I tied 6 knots. So I know this I made with a 6mm hook. So for me, for the Ferris wheel, the 6mm worked really, really well. I love using a 6mm hook. It's such a nice size, and you can see it's pretty closed. I mean, if you put it against the light, you can see a little bit of holes, but on the body, it's really, really nice. And even though it's acrylic, with this stitch and the larger hook, you get a really nice drape. The Hobbii is a little bit thinner, so probably will work up a little slower than Ferris wheel. It's not a huge difference, but yeah, this one is just a little bit thicker. Now I had a little bit of yarn left from a sweater that I made with jewel spun, so I also made a sample with it. I think with this, I think it looks great. It looks beautiful. I love this yarn, so if you want to use it, go ahead, enjoy. It's lovely. It's a little bit stiffer, the fabric, than these two, so just keep that in mind. But I think the most important thing here is to be excited about the yarn that you're using. If you're just using a yarn, you're kind of like, I just want to use it up. I don't think you will have as much happiness and joy as you make this sweater. We'll start with the ribbing. You can see in the sweater that I'm wearing, I did a single crochet ribbing, but I think for our sweater, I'll do a half double because I really like half double and I'm impatient, so this works up faster. But you can absolutely do a single crochet. It works exactly the same way, just whenever I say half double, like just use single and you'll be fine. You can also just test them and see which ones you like better. Sorry, this one is a bit bumpy because of my watch. I have here my trusty Clover hook set that I got, I think 10 years ago. This doesn't mean that this is the hook size you should use, but you have to kind of try and see. You know, you need something that is small but not too small, that it just, you know, can't handle your yarn. And what you're going to do now is you're just going to chain as many chains as you want your ribbing to be. Again, we're doing a swatch, so it's probably nice to do something a little bit substantial. Even if in your final sweater you want something super small, maybe now do something a little bit longer just so you see how it looks. So I'm going to do a ribbing of 9 half double crochets. I'm going to chain 9 plus 1, so just the number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then plus 1, and I'm going to do a half double in the second chain from my hook and continue to do a half double crochet in each chain. And it's not hard for me to work with this size hook on the yarn. It doesn't like escape. I don't find it particularly challenging. So that to me means that it's not too small. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. Chain 1, turn, and then from the second row we do back loop only, half doubles. If you're doing a single crochet ribbing, it's exactly the same way. You want to chain the number of stitches you want, plus 1, that's the turning chain, and then, you know, put a single crochet in each of your stitches, and at the end of each row, chain 1, turn, and then start, instead of a half double, just doing single crochets. It's a really good idea to just do what you like, and pretty much like many patterns will allow for these kind of adjustments. So once you just understand the construction of a sweater, you can see if you can easily, you know, if you prefer a half double crochet ribbing to a single crochet ribbing, in most cases you can just do that, or do a slip stitch ribbing. The last stitch sometimes can be a little bit tricky to find because it's kind of leaning down, but just, you know, count your stitches and see if you need another stitch. And then, you know, here I can see all the nice stitches, and this one is the last one here, so the back loop would be this one. It just leans a little bit to the front, but it's still easy to find. Okay, so I think 3.5 millimeters is my hook of choice for cookie. This is E, I guess, in other places of the world. I don't know. I don't know the letters, I just know the millimeters. So that's what I'm going to use with the cookie yarn. And for the body of the sweater, I'm going to use a 5.5, which I've already tried and I know that's the size I want. So for me, I'm going up 2 millimeters, which is quite a difference, but it works. It's like different stitches with different purposes. The ribbing, we want it tight. We want it to keep its shape and kind of cinch a bit our sweater. Of course, you can skip it. You don't have to have it, but I just like the way that it looks. I think it looks more polished and, you know, more finished and less handmade. But yeah, so I'm going to finish the ribbing and then we will move on. See, that's how it's looking now. We will move on to our main stitch. Okay, so I'm done with my little sample and I just want to give you an idea. This, of course, doesn't have to be very accurate. Just, it's nice to have a larger sample because it just gives you an idea of how the fabric feels and the drape of it. And, you know, how just, yeah, it is what it is, you know. I think it's worth taking the time and get the feel of the yarn that you're using. So mine is about 16.5 centimeters. It's a nice size to give me an idea. And I really like the way that it looks. It worked well with a 3.5 millimeter hook. Could probably have gone even to 3.25, but yeah, so this is how it would look, and then on your arm it would be like this. I still haven't decided how tall I'm going to make the ribbing for our cowl, but yeah, this is how half double crochet ribbing looks, the back loop only. And what we're going to do now is, still with a small hook, we are going to do a row of single crochet here. And this is a really important row, and I'm just going to chain one at the end of, you don't need to cut your yarn. Now this will be like a tiny bit different in the sweater because we are going to join it, but the principle is the same. And what is really important here is to get a really nice transition from your ribbing to the sleeve. You want to do your single crochets, making sure that every time you do a single crochet, you go under 2 strands. This is really important because what this will give us is a nice closed connection here. I really don't like it when you have holes here. So for example, many times you will see, or you know, you will kind of want to go for your next single crochet. It's kind of like this hole is just asking to go into it. But if I would do that, then I have this hole here. You can see my finger behind it, and I don't like that. So what we're going to do is you just have to look for another strand to pick up, and as you go on, you'll just get familiar with the construction of the stitches. Stuck my hook here, and now I have 2 strands under my hook, and I can do my single crochet. This, and I'm going again to find 2 strands and do my single crochet. So again, the next spot kind of has this one strand that is asking for me to go under it, but I'm going to find another one. So here, just you want to make sure that it's 2, not 1, not 3, 2. And this row can also be kind of tight because the next row we're going to start our stitch and we're going to switch to a larger hook. So just continue like this, take your time. This is really a point in the sweater. There are a few points that I say you should really take your time now because it's an area that is very visible. You know, it's on your wrists. You will see it every time you look at your hands, and it's really worth to take the time and do that row properly. So look how nicely it is, really nice and tight. There are no holes, and this is all because I only put my stitches under 2 strands. Again, here I have the edge here has this stitch, this strand, which really begs to just put a single crochet in it, but instead I just take also this strand and I go under both of them. So you'll see as you do this, you will get into the rhythm of it and you'll just get a feel of where to stick your hook. Okay, and we're done. And you can see how nice and tight this is. In our sweater, it will look like this because we will just have our sleeve, and this will be the outer edge, and then here we're going to start working on our sleeve. So now you want to put aside far away your small hook and you want to grab a larger hook. You can start maybe with the one recommended on your yarn and add to it 0.5 millimeter or 1 millimeter and see how it goes. There's really no way I can predict what will work well for you. So you just have to try it. Okay, so I switched to my 5.5, which I know is going to work for me. We will now begin with our stitch pattern, which is very, very simple and is basically a 1-row repeat, I want to say. So I chained 1 and turned my work, and this is how you do the stitch when you work on an open, like a back and forth type fabric. With a pattern we will actually start working in a spiral and only then work back and forth, but this is just easier to see how the stitch works and get an idea of the fabric. So I chained 1 and I turned my work. The first stitch in every row is a single crochet, and then the next one is a double crochet, and you repeat that until the end of your row. Now you need, for the back and forth version of this pattern, you need an even number of stitches because your row needs to end in a double crochet. So I didn't actually check. I think I have here an even number of single crochets. If you don't, just do 2 stitches in the last spot. It doesn't really matter. We're just trying to see how the stitch looks with our chosen hook size. So single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. Get used to it. This is our stitch. And I was actually, it's similar to a seed stitch, which is super, super popular, but I personally like it better. With the seed stitch, I always felt like I wasn't sure where I needed to stick my hook with the chain spaces and everything. I've done a sweater using it, or like half a sweater. I stopped in the middle, not because of the stitch. And yeah, I definitely like this one better. So that's just me, but it's kind of similar because, well, you'll see how the stitch looks. I really like how it looks. So actually, no, so I have 2 more stitches, kind of. I'm gonna make it work. So single crochet, and then if you have an odd number of stitches, just do a single and then a double into the same stitch. It doesn't really matter here on our sample. I'm going to try and find a place. I'll just stick it somewhere. So every row ends with a double crochet. When you're working back and forth, you always need an even number of stitches for this stitch pattern to work. You always start with a single crochet and end with a double crochet and 1 turning chain and turn. And again, starting with a single and after that a double. So basically the way this pattern works is that you put a single crochet into every double crochet and a double crochet into every single crochet from the row below. That's how it works all the time, and yeah, it's very simple. All you have to do is, you know, keep an eye on it. Sometimes I found occasionally that suddenly I was doing double crochet into a double crochet, and then it's usually the problem is like a few stitches before that, but it's very easy to fix and see that you're working correctly. So you do need to pay a little bit of attention, but most of the time it's a very easy pattern to follow that you don't need to think too much about. And the last stitch of the row is always a double crochet. If you have a single crochet, then check yourself because something went wrong. Chain 1, turn, start with a single into that last double and continue in pattern. Single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. Very simple. So you want to do a few rows, you know, at least like a few centimeters, so that you can get a good idea of how the fabric feels. So this is also made with cookie, just a different colorway than this. For me, the sweet spot was the 5.5 hook, but yeah, I didn't know that. So I started with a 5, then changed to a 6, and eventually decided on a 5.5. And you should do the same. Just start with, if it's a yarn you're familiar with, then it might be easier for you to find the right hook. I think you will find that you can go up 0.5 millimeter or a millimeter because of the stitch construction. It creates more of a closed fabric than just like a double crochet would create. So I hope you can see how nice the texture is. I'm also wearing one of my sweaters. Super nice and very, it's like a closed stitch, but it's not stiff, you know? And that is it, basically. So do your sample, get comfortable with the stitch, maybe think about the ribbing. If you want to do, like I'm doing, a 1/2 double crochet, that's fine. Or maybe you prefer to do a different kind of ribbing. There are tons of really great videos on different ribbing. Okay, I'm going to continue until I have a nice size swatch and I'll show you. And you should do the same. Let me know in the comments, and let us all know in the comments which yarn you chose and which hook sizes you found work for you. Because I'm sure it could be helpful to those that are really kind of new to this or using a new yarn. This could be helpful just to, you know, make that journey to finding the right hook size a little bit shorter. Okay, so here is my sample done, and it's just really interesting how even within the same line of yarn, there are still variations. This is the gray cookie colorway, and it actually looks completely different. It doesn't have like these color changes that this colorway has, and it also feels lighter than this one, but I still like it. I feel like this has a very like it looks rich to me, and I'm not sure how I feel about the colors. I mean, this is a lot more my vibe, so we'll see. I think I may switch to this colorway from Cookie, which is number 46218. I don't know, it just makes me a little bit happier, but it's not the point of the video to talk about my color issues. I just wanted to show you my sample, and hopefully you have yours and you've decided which hook you want to use. Again, I tied here 5 knots kind of close together, and then another one a bit further away, and that tells me that I used a 5.5 hook. Of course, it doesn't tell me which hook I used for this. I actually sewed in my loose end. I should have left it hanging, and then I could have tied 3 knots space and another knot to mark that it's 3.5 millimeters. You can of course put a note on it, but I'm so messy. This is kind of a sure way for me to know which hook size I used. So yeah, make sure. What I also like to do is sometimes I would just like put the hook like this, and I would take a picture with my phone because I usually have my phone close by, and then I know that I made this stitch with this hook. So that's also something you can keep for easy reference. That is it. Get your samples ready, and we will be starting our cal very, very soon. So let me know below which yarn you chose to go with and the colorway, and yeah, if you have any like concerns, if something is like worrying you or you're excited, I would love to know. So I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.